All right, geometry kids, we are finishing this review sheet, and we ended off with this problem right here, which is number 18, which is to solve a system of equations using some facts about geometry. To get your equations, this problem here, you will have this angle added to this angle to get that 180 degrees. That equation gives us x minus y plus 3x minus 2y equals 180. The second equation that you're going to get is from the vertical angles here, and they are equal. See them? That gives us 3x minus 2y equals 2x plus 10. Now we have to make these equations look nice, so we have to get them looking like ax plus by equals c, and dx plus ey is equal to f. So we have to get the x, basically we have to get the x's lined up and the y's lined up, equal sign, and then numbers here. To do that, I will look at the first equation and I will write it as 4x, right, minus 3y equals 180. And then I will do the second equation by subtracting the 2x here, and I get 1x minus 2y is equal to 10. Now, the best way to solve this is to multiply this equation, the bottom one, by negative 4, and that gives me negative 4x plus 8y equals negative 40. Now I'm going to add these two equations together, and the negative 4's drop out, so I have 5y here, and this is 140. I divide both sides by 5, and I get y equals 28. Now I have to find angle MNR. Okay, so MNR is indicated by x minus y, so I need to solve for x. To solve for x, I'm going to take that 28 and I can put it in for this y right here. So I get 1x minus 2 times 28 equals 10. So 1x minus 56 equals 10. So x equals 66. X minus y would be 66 minus 28. Right, I believe that's 38. So that's angle MNR. The next problem says solve for x and y. So it's the same type of problem, so I'm going to say 2x equals y for my vertical angles because they're equal. So 2x equals y. Now I have to see that this angle plus this angle plus this angle will be 180. So 2x plus 2y plus x equals 180, which simplifies to 3x plus 2y equals 180. Now I think the easiest way to do this one would be to take that 2x equals y and put it in for that y. Substitution. So 3x plus 2 times 2x equals 180. So in order to do that, I have now 3x plus 4x, which is 7x, equals 180. So x equals 180 divided by 7. I'm going to grab my phone. And that's 25.7, roughly. Now, if I multiply that by 2, to get y, I get 51.4. All right, kiddos, we're going to keep going here. So what we do next, all right, good, all right. So these next few problems require us to think about our properties, okay? So we're going to label the diagram and we're going to come up with a reason and then we're going to come up with a conclusion based on the reason. So, for example, we're given that angle BAE and angle FAC are congruent. So BAE and FAC. Now, if you can't see it already, they both cross over this angle here. Okay? So that angle is going to be subtracted from those two red ones. So that means that this angle is congruent to this angle. All right, so that is BAC is congruent to FAE because if an angle is subtracted from, I guess I'll write in regular writing, congruent angles, okay, the differences are congruent. The next question says, what is the conclusion if the reason is if an angle is bisected, then it is divided into two congruent angles? Well, let's look up here. It says it's bisected, right? So AD, all right, AD, I'll use blue, I guess. Here's AD. It bisects angle CAE. So if it's bisected, that means that these two angles are congruent. So angle CAD is congruent to angle EAD. So that's what we have to do for this problem now, okay? So we have to do that for a couple more problems, two more. All right, so this problem says that BC and FE are congruent. So BC and FE. AB and AF are congruent. So AB and AF are congruent. And AF is congruent to FB. So AF is congruent to FB. So the first thing says that FC, which is this segment here, is congruent to BE, which is this segment here. Now, if you don't see it, this segment here, CE, was added to these two congruent ones. So it's addition. So if a seg is added to congruent segs, the sums are congruent. Okay. So the next one says that if two segments are congruent to the same segment, they are congruent to each other. That kind of sounds like transitive property, doesn't it? So what's the conclusion about that? Well, if AB is congruent to AF and AF is congruent to FB, all right, then AB is congruent to FB. That's a transitive property. So if AB is congruent to AF, all right, and AF is congruent to FB, that means AB is congruent to FB. All right, getting messy with the pink. All right, last question is given angle 1 is congruent to angle 2. The first question says angle 1 is congruent to angle 4. So angle 1 is congruent to angle 4. Now if you don't see it, okay, they're opposite V's because all vertical angles are congruent. So, why is angle 2 congruent to angle 3 then? Same thing. So let's get you to see that. This angle, angle 3, is congruent to this angle, angle 2. Those are also vertical angles. All vertical angles are congruent. Now, 3 says conclusion, using all 3 statements from above. That means this one, and this one. And the reason is that if 2 angles are congruent to congruent angles, then they are congruent to each other. So, if angle 1 is congruent to angle 2, and angle 1 is congruent to angle 4, and angle 2 is congruent to angle 3, all right, what can I say about angle 4 and angle 3? You see, angle 4 and angle 3 are congruent to angle 2 and angle 1, but angle 1 and angle 2 are congruent. So if 2 angles are congruent to congruent angles and are congruent to each other, the conclusion would be that angle 3 is congruent to angle 4. You see angle 3, everybody? That's congruent to angle 2, isn't it? Do you see angle 4? That's congruent to angle 1. But if we go back up, we recognize, of course, that angle 1 is congruent to angle 2. So that makes angle 3 congruent to angle 4. And that's the transitive property. That's the review sheet. Stop and go. Have a good day.